Are you going to kick us off?
Yeah, I will. So I think that we were talking a little bit about this, and it's always interesting because so many people ask us, like, well, why do we do what we do? And then, we tell them, we share with them, like, hey, this is why the Women in My World does what we do, and then the Beautifully Flawed Productions, and why do you make content, and why is entertainment and media so important? And so let's talk about that thought-provoking question. We were talking about this earlier. Have you ever gone back and watched a movie that you loved years ago and you thought, wow, I didn't really remember there being this much language, violence, or nudity? So
right. I think the conversation came up because some of the more popular shows that we're watching on the major platforms contain things that are concerning to us, whether we're parents or just as believers. Mm-hmm. And it made us start thinking about some of the movies that we loved when we were kids, and that when we started rewatching them with our own children, we were shocked. Mm-hmm. And we thought, oh my gosh, did we just miss that when we were kids? Or were we clueless? Or what happens? And I remember one of my favorite movies growing up was Goonies, and have such fond memories of it. I still do. And when one of my kids was sick, he was probably middle elementary school age, and I thought, oh, I'm going to play Goonies for you. This is just such a treat. I'm going to share something that was such a special part of my childhood. And I remember getting to the point where I'm like, if I hear one more curse word, I'm going to have to turn this off because I feel so uncomfortable. And there were sexual innuendos, and I thought, I completely missed that when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question is, do kids miss a lot of what we're concerned about now in the shows that we're watching? And when we see nudity and cursing and drug use and alcohol use, are our kids missing it? Or are they...
or we just gotten older.
Or are we older? Like, what's going on? What's happening? Explain it. Make it make sense.
That's what I was going to ask you, Katie, too, is your faith today what it was when you were a kid as well? And I preference that because when I watch things now or read books even that are romance books and the faith I have now, I'm like, oh, whoa, this sticks out to me so much more because my faith is way stronger than when I was a kid. Do you see that at all too? Like when you watched the Goonies the first time, were you big into your faith then?
Oh, well, I was a believer back then, sure. Yeah. But definitely not, as mature as I am now. I mean, I hope I've matured. So yes, certainly. I mean, maturity across the board, whether it's like, developmentally and emotionally, all those things. So yeah, certain things probably hit me different now. For sure.
But don't you think it's like as a mother? I mean, I remember as we were sitting here talking about it earlier, one of the movies, I love John Hughes. I mean, this man was iconic and brilliant, and he made so many of these movies that we just loved from the 80s. And I don't know about you, but I love watching these movies today, and I'll never forget what you're talking about, even with Goonies, is that when Levi, my youngest, I think he might have been like maybe 10 or 11, if that. And I remember going, hey, let's watch The Breakfast Club together. And I turned it on and I was like, wait, they're skipping. Like, I just didn't have the same lens on that I was watching it in, because I was so in love with these movies back in the 80s. They really shaped, which is probably something we should talk about. It really shaped the culture, right? And maybe it's not so much of that today, but I do think we watch it a little differently, probably through the lens of faith, and then also as parents. What is it that hits us that we don't want our kids seeing or whatever? They're great movies. They were great movies.
Mm-hmm. I know. And Lexi, you not being a parent right now, so you're watching some of the content that's out there right now, and how are those things hitting you? We're talking about some popular, binge-worthy shows that are on the major platforms.
Right. When you guys were saying that, like, oh, we're watching it now, but we're watching it with children, and so we're seeing it through different eyes. I think that is a true statement where you go, oh, I can watch it and I can defer from it maybe. But then when you're putting it in front of someone else, you kind of get more, what's the word I'm looking for, where you get more protective of that, and you can see it then through a different set of eyes too, where you're like, I don't know if you can go about this the same way I'm watching it. And I think 80s movies, we can go back and see the cuss words or the nudity, and I think that's great to see. Okay, but today, how much more are they putting it into what we're watching?
Right.
And that is where it even is more concerning of popular movies today, that doesn't have this kind of kid-like aspect of adventure, but more now harder topics and even more nudity. So that question is, okay, before we can watch it and you kind of go, okay, I can see where the story is, and you know, this little aspect I skipped when I was a kid, how much is that relevant today though now?
Yeah. It's a great point, because I think the comment would be, has entertainment changed, or have we changed, right? But man, it is like how it's that constant conversation of how far can they push. And so, you know, when one thing is acceptable, then it seems like the next kind of line is crossed. So I even think of like, okay, well, if I watch a movie from the 80s, even 16 Candles, there's a lot of things in there that, you know, when my kids were little, I would have been like, nah, I don't want you to watch that. But compared to today, I mean, think about that. And you're watching with your daughter, Katie. I'm a boy mom, so I'm not tackling some of the issues that you are. But what is that like for you with watching movies from the 80s and 90s, and now you're sitting down watching entertainment with your daughter?
Right. I think one of the biggest concerns for me is that, well, one, there's amazing storytelling going on right now. There, you know, wherever you look, you see movies and TV series that are based on pretty phenomenal IP, books that I have read, that I love, and they're being turned into the next latest and greatest show. And the concern that I have is that the lines are pretty blurred on who their target audience is. And I think there has been a recent series out that took the world by storm, kind of blew everyone away, and created this whole just phenomenon of watching this one particular series that's based on a popular book series. The book series is excellent. I've read it myself. I consider it pretty benign in terms of like my daughter can read this series. And so there are other TV series and movies similar to that. But what they found with this is that middle-aged moms were becoming obsessed with it and just really becoming engrossed in it. But then so were their high school or college, high school, middle school daughters. Wow. And so when I'm talking about blurred lines, you see these movies and these TV series come out, you know, yes, I may be able to watch it and say, you know, like that's a little too far for me. I may fast forward through some things and I'm just like, that makes me a little uncomfortable. But then also I realize that my 13-year-old daughter is attracted to the same series. And I'm thinking, that doesn't sit right with me.
Right.
So I think that maybe in the past when something came out, there was a very clear audience of who this is for, who they're targeting. And right now I think just it spans generations who they're reaching.
Yeah.
And it may not be great for those youngers to be seeing some of this stuff. And it's frustrating to me as a parent. It's frustrating to me as a storyteller and as a creative that I think, gosh, you know, this is such an amazing story. I wish they didn't go that far because it wouldn't take away from the story. It wouldn't take away from the storytelling. I don't think they would lose audience. I think they would gain audience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How about you, Lexi? Like, how do you feel, especially at your age, where do you feel like you have to, I mean, I'm sure that for you right now, there's so many choices, way more choices, you know, I think you can almost get fatigued on how many choices there are to watch. So what is it for you that when you turn something on and you're watching it that really is like, nope, I cannot watch this? Or what is it that's still shocking to you that, you know, and what do you see from some of these television series and films, but probably more nowadays, series that are affecting your age demographic? I think not only generationally it's going to tax you guys a lot, but how do you see it affecting your generation culturally and also just maybe we want to think about the level of, commitment, intimacy, all of those things,
Oh yeah, I see it totally in my generation, especially with intimacy, and what you're saying with fatigue and decision fatigue is everyone is watching what's kind of buzzworthy and what's in social media,
Right.
which can totally blur audience lines. And I feel that once you start watching it, and then so common, someone's naked, there's a sex scene right away. It's almost in the first 5 minutes now with these scenes. And you watch it and you go, well, everyone's talking about it, so it must get good, or the story somewhere is going to happen. So I'm just going to keep watching, and everyone's talking about it anyway, so I need to keep watching to understand why it's so buzzworthy. And because of that, any age group is watching it, then going on social media, finding the clips, and you then are seeing these very, especially with nudity and intimacy, these very specific scenes that are now becoming normalized, and you're seeing intimacy that way. And in my generation, who there's so many studies that we're all single, dating way later, also very hard to find like people to date. You then go, oh, so this is love? Like, am I doing it wrong? Wait, messy and sex very early on in stages, like this is normal, and look, it's going to be a happy ending, or something's going to come out and someone's going to turn around. So seeing that constantly in our faces is just actually doing way more harm, and it's becoming normal though.
No, that's I think that's such a good take on it, because there's so much that's happening in our culture today. And I don't know, I even think about it from just the faith perspective. There's so many times, I can't tell you how many times really incredible people that I know as believers, and I've done it myself, is like all of a sudden they're talking about some great show or movie, and then you turn it on and you're actually, or you even start talking about it like you know what you're talking about, and then you turn it on and you're like, oh wow, I can't watch this. And I think so often, we've become now almost more susceptible, and what's the word I'm looking for? We've almost become kind of numb to the way that the culture has been feeding us, entertainment and media, whether it's books, whether it is television or series. And we've just become this culture where we're kind of numb to what we're seeing. And I think as women, when we start to come to the table to talk about the women in my world and call this creative and what we're doing and what we're making, I would say, what are some ways that we can tackle this particular topic with violence and nudity, and I want to say really over-sexualizing young women more than probably I've ever seen before in my life. How can we tackle some of those things and maybe encourage people who are listening to, you don't have to take part in this.
Right. It's a complicated issue, but I think that we do see some hope out there, that occasionally you'll see a show or you'll see a movie that really is a good story, a good love story will endure. And, I think every once in a while we'll see a series that it's like, this is just a really good story, and I can sit there and watch it with my 13-year-old, and she can enjoy it and I can enjoy it. We can chat about it. We can, look forward to binging the next few episodes together. They do exist, but we definitely need to demand more. And I think we can expect that of people in entertainment, that we can expect them to draw the line and say no more. We can still have grit, we can still have compelling stories, we can still tell true stories, in Defiant Ones that we just did. We're telling true, gritty, authentic, courageous stories of women in war. That is it's not glamorous,
right
but it's stories about women who step forward in faith, and it's women who have an amazing love story with their husbands and have wonderful families. We can tell those stories, and you know what? Those stories endure.
Right. I agree.
I mean, I'm with you where it's like, what is the answer when everyone in Hollywood who is making those decisions at the top, they aren't Christian, and they're influenced by culture, and they go, oh, sex sells. Oh, well, this is what the audiences want. But is it? You know, like, you can have compelling stories and not show those. You can, even the early stages of film, when there were a bunch of laws that you couldn't show two people even sleeping in the same bed together, and they weren't even kissing, you know, and film makers were able to tell the story even without showing those things. And to me, some of those movies are the most unique, fascinating movies I've ever watched, and it just shows you don't need those things. And I just feel like that's what Hollywood is telling you, that is what you need. But then you have content like what we're creating, which is super amazing stories with none of that in it, and you still get great content, you know? So you just, I don't know what the answer is, but we just need more soldiers in the field.
We do. We need those. We need them. Well, I was just thinking recently too about, I was looking this up because I wanted to see, you know, we've really seen this surgence again. Surgence? I'm like, at the end of the day. Anyway, what we've seen is a lot of great stories coming back to life again, or new ones being created, like Seeking Persephone, or the remake of Pride and Prejudice, or gosh, there's so many great stories like that, but adaptions. And I was really excited to see that Seeking Persephone was so well done, and it was so full of love and romance and gentleness and kindness, but yet there was this real spirit behind it that, you know, they were tough. They were tackling some tough topics, but you know, it was #1 on Amazon Prime. It was one of the best selling TV series that just recently was also #1 on Angel, and it was really well done. And so I think that when I start to see projects like this made, how do we keep bringing back these types of stories? Because you said earlier, Lexi, like, is what Hollywood is selling right now, is it really what audiences want? Not sure. It might be just scroll fatigue because it's all they can find. But are they really searching or seeking, like Seeking Persephone, something more? Something more that they can really sink their teeth into and really be, you know, be encouraged by, fall in love with. I also watched The Other Bennett Sister, and I thought that was a fabulous show on BritBox. And these are just fabulous, fabulous, well-told stories, brilliant talent, wonderful music, clean, and just really well done. And I do think it goes back to the writing, it goes back to the art of storytelling, and it goes back to serving an audience that actually this is really what people want.
I love that line, the art of storytelling, and I feel like that's what's lost, is they think we need to sacrifice the art of it because we have to do this to sell it, but that's so untrue.
Yeah. Right. And going back to Seeking Persephone, I was just thinking about my good friend watched that series with her parents and her 7-year-old daughter. And they all loved it. They loved it, and so much so that her 7-year-old daughter wants to read the book.
No.
So it's just, yes, it's what do the audiences really want? And I have to believe that there are believers out there on these platforms. And I don't know if it's a matter of them having courage to make a difficult decision, to say, hey, let's try it this way. Let's see if this works. Or if we, you know, obviously we need to, you know, raise up leadership that really want to put quality content out there in the world. But I believe that there are people out there who can make these decisions, who maybe are not making those decisions yet. And maybe we need to pray that they have the courage to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I guess that kind of brings us to, like, instead of asking what's wrong with Hollywood, you know, maybe we need to start asking, what are we trying to protect? What do we want out of entertainment and media? And who are the people that we keep supporting in it? Because I think that's a really big topic for us, and I don't think we're going to tackle that one today, but we're going to definitely tackle influencers and people that we're following, whether believers or non-believers. Should we be following them? But for another day. So I think it's kind of starting to think about, like, well, what is wrong with Hollywood? What are we trying to protect with our families? And what do we want?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We have a voice.
And how do we make it happen?
Right.
I love it.
Yeah. I would just tell you, for me, I think one thing that I really admire about some of the content that we're talking about is there's a beautiful innocence about it. There is really an idea, again, of strong families taking care of one another, loving each other, being there to support one another, healthy marriages, romance. What does romance look like? Respect and sacrifice, faith, modesty, courage, redemption. There's so many good things that we want. And I do believe that if we started to see some of this kind of content that we're all consuming, whether in music or what it might look like for us, movies, television, books, we want to really develop people who have a great, strong sense of identity and worth and hope. And I think we have to, as a culture, turn back to that in the things that we're creating so that we can uplift, inspire, and encourage those people to dream again and really be the kind of storytellers that are cultivating stories that really do enhance imagination rather than dumbing down an audience and resorting to so many things. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to think through.
Definitely.
That's a good word.
It's a good word. All right, well,
Until next time.
until next time, thanks for joining us.